Welcome, everybody. Another LinkedIn Live. How fantastic is this? We're talking about mental health today. And when just by having discussions, we can change a life, we can enhance a life by implementing tools and resources around those discussions to support people who are struggling with mental health, saves lives. And it goes without saying that my topic of work enjoyment goes hand in hand with mental health. We enhance our mental health, we enjoy our work more. We enjoy our work more and our mental health is enhanced. It's a no-brainer. See what I did there? I can't think of a better person than our guest today to speak on how we can improve not just these discussions, how we can even have these discussions around mental health to create more safety in the workplace, how to remove some of these or tackle some of these stigmas that surround our mental health. And in particular, speaking about the leaders in our workplace who are more susceptible to the factors that contribute to diminished mental health, yet we don't talk about it. And because they're leaders, we don't tend to, we neglect that they are also human and need just as much, if not more help than your average worker. We're here to talk about that and much more today with my special guest. Melissa Doman is a psychologist, organizational psychologist, one of my favorite types of psychologists. And she's an author, not just of one book about mental health, but two. One of them came in today, and we're going to talk about that and celebrate that with her. It's not out yet for public consumption, but I was privileged to get a little sneaky peek, and I'm going to give some thoughts on that with Melissa and dive into some of the topics around creating mental health discussions and resources in the workplace. So I've had her on before and I had to get her back today because our discussions are so insightful, enlightening, and entertaining because she's an entertainer. Welcome, Melissa. Come on in. I've kept you out there long enough.
Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it, and happy to hear that I'm entertaining. Never a dull moment, or that's what my husband tells me anyway.
Never a dull moment. We've met in person.
Yes.
Rugby
Yeah.
together. Are you now? I'm seeing the background. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But you are coming live from Denver, Colorado.
Denver, Colorado. That's right. Sunny and gorgeous outside. It was sunny and 60 yesterday. So, hashtag where's winter?
Congratulations. You just got the book. You see it in the background, cornered office,
Yeah.
in the mail. Describe that moment for me.
Oh God. So the boxes came in and I was really excited, and I didn't think I was gonna cry or anything because I was like, oh, I've been through this before. It's the second one. I'm used to that feeling. And then I opened the box and just went and it like welled up out of me, and I really wasn't expecting it. And just because you've done it once before, there's this illusion that it'll be more familiar, it'll be easier. Absolutely not. It was just as hard, if not harder, than the first time. And I'm really happy that my husband was able to get on video that ugly cry moment, because we'll have that saved forever. And our dogs were barking in the background, and I was pretending it was for me, even though they were barking at someone on our neighbor's roof. So
why was it harder? And because for those of us watching that aspire to writing a book, this would be really insightful to help us understand the process. And when I watched that ugly cry, I mean, it wasn't ugly at all to me. It was just
thanks.
I want to do that. I will do that one day. I will ugly
yes,
cry.
you will. We've talked about it.
Yeah.
I think the reason it was harder is because the first book was much more informational and instructional. The second book was taking a very long-term, widely held idea forever and currently, and basically trying to break it and rebuild it. That I have not done that before. So that was a really challenging feat. And I was really, concerned about doing that because I was like, can I do that? Am I the right person to do that? And as you read in the preface, I was freaking out about doing that. I was like, why me? And then when I thought about it, I was like, well, I'm not writing about leadership. I'm writing about the mental health of leaders. There is a difference. And so that was really, really hard. And I'm very fortunate that I have a commissioning editor who was like, go break stuff. And I was like, don't have to tell me twice. And my developmental editor made sure it was done coherently. But yeah, it was just as hard, if not harder. And to be very honest with you, and I wrote this in the acknowledgement section, I would not have gotten through this process a second time without my husband, my friends, my family. You know, I was freaking out the whole way, just like the first book. And I think it's important to be honest about that, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows. And you know me, I like to keep it real. So.
But this, you're so right. This is what is evident through your writing is that
Thanks.
raw, authentic. I mean, like you said, who am I to tell leaders or organizations how to improve mental health? Well, you're the perfect person because you live it. You practice what you preach when you're telling people to be more authentic, creating psychological safety, etc. All the things that contribute to enhancing people's mental health. You are actually doing it. So it's not like you're telling someone to be this and do that and not doing it yourself. So that's something that I've always appreciated about your writing. It's true, it's honest, it's raw, and it comes in a voice, again, that is just so you. And what I mean,
hope that's a good thing.
it is. What I mean by that, folks, because they're like, what? So how? I was expressing this to you. This is a tricky topic, and if we're going to move the needle on this and help folks improve their mental health, help environments, and you focus on the workplace, improve the mental health discussions, even just having discussions in the first place, it can be considered. The reason why it is where it is in the world, I want to get your thoughts on this, is because of the stigma that surrounds it and leaders' resistance to even the language around mental health. They see it as a little fluffy. They see it as, we talked about soft skills, right?
Oh.
It's like, she nearly vomited.
Vomit.
That's why we need a voice like yours that is anything but fluffy. You come at it directly. You come at it even with some curse words. You've talked about that, right? There she is. Look at her face. You wouldn't believe it, would you, folks?
My husband says I use the F word as a comma. So, and I even cite in the book about how cursing is not only good for mental health and pain tolerance and coping, but when cursing is used in like daily language just to emphasize points, it's also a sign of intelligence.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, good to know. Just make a note of
that.
I
won't curse today though, because I assume this is a family friendly LinkedIn Live.
No, that's what we're saying. Who are we? Let's keep it consistent here, right? This is important.
You may regret that in 5 minutes, but okay.
Bring your worst / your best.
Got it.
It's important to bring that strong voice of yours to a topic that unfortunately is seen as fluffy and soft and weak by so many.
So many people are wrong.
They're wrong.
They're wrong.
Right?
They're wrong.
I appreciate your conviction, your directness. Why the passion behind? Why is it important to you to put your blood, sweat, and tears into both of these books and the work that you do? And you travel the world speaking on panels, keynote speaking about it as well. You're playing your part. Why?
You know, I think about I think it's two things. I think there's a personal motivation and a professional motivation. So I think somewhat selfishly, I'm in my 40s now, and I think about the workplaces I did not have access to coming up in the world of work. And I think I'm trying to create workplaces for people that I wish I had and didn't have access to. And, coming up in the world of work in the 90s and early aughts, like you didn't talk about your mental health or personal stuff you're struggling with. Like that was a rarity. And I think also, when I left clinical work, God, 13 years ago now, all of my clients were talking about how their workplaces were either a source of stress or they couldn't talk about their struggles in the workplace. And I was like, let me see if I can make an impact at the source. And I transitioned into, traditional industrial organizational psychology. And I still do a lot of that work. I love doing that work around, intentional communication, constructive conflict, emotional intelligence, building discomfort tolerance. I love those topics. But when I first transitioned into org psych and tried to use the words mental health, people would like proverbially hiss at me. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, this doesn't have to be weird. And so I went on this journey of just teaching people why it's important to talk about at work and how to do it. And I feel that the latter was seriously lacking for a really long time. And it just really burned my ass that there are all these people being like, mental health is important. We're all human. I was like, what are people supposed to do with that?
Yes.
What are people supposed to do with that? So it's not going to get any easier out there. It's not going to get easier in here. So why not show the necessity of the conversation and then teach people the skill set of how to do it? So for me, it is, my sister says, being alive is the cost of doing business. And I'm just trying to give people the skill set to talk about that daily cost, because with all the time we spend at work, I just don't understand how people are supposed to function, especially in this current environment, gestures to everything, and not talking about those stressors is just it's unrealistic. So I think I do it again, selfishly. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, why can't we just do it? Like, and I'm sorry, I will keep my shit together. But in the book, I go on this long rant of like stripping away all of these like sociological rules and biases and frameworks we've set up and just getting it down to the studs and being like, I understand we've all been conditioned with A, B, C, D, E, F, G rules. It's all created. Like, why can't we just go back to the basics? And so I look at it all, and sometimes I feel like I'm screaming in the middle of a crowded room and no one hears me. Yes, I lifted that line from Titanic because it's very accurate. So, Yeah.
While we're talking about the book, I want to just show the folks that are watching. We have a little QR code. These are both of the books that obviously February 24th is when the Cornered Office is officially released, but that doesn't mean you can't pre-order. So this will take you straight to the book section of Melissa's website. Scan the QR code. I'll bring it back on a little later because we're going to be referring to the book throughout this discussion. So once again, congratulations and thank you for your tireless work, Melissa.
Aww.
You mentioned something important that has also me passionate about this topic, work enjoyment, which is quite a coverall in ways. But you said we spend so much time at work.
Yep.
And again, this is what I'm passionate about. My background of playing professional rugby, having a career-ending injury, being given a second chance at life is how it felt to me. Yeah. So
literally,
what are we going to do with this? And then trying to figure out my shit and my career. First thing was, what am I passionate about? We talk about purpose and meaning. I mean, it always comes back to helping others.
Yeah.
So how do I serve others? How do I like serving others? And what's out there that I've experienced that just as you have in the workplace, that I can really help use my story to help other people. And it is just, are you making the most of your life? Plain and simple. And when you're spending over a third of your life at work, well, let's have a look at that. And and then just like you with your clinical work, with your speaking, with clients, and through your research and your books, you start to see just how messed up the work environment is when it comes to.
That's putting it mildly, yeah.
Okay, that's my job here. You don't put it mildly, please.
Yes, sir.
But I just want to say, this is why I think there's so many synergies with our work, because, and I love whenever I read, like I'm fist pumping while I read your book. I'm like, yes, that's right. You're right. And because it's a travesty. I want to help people. They're
Yeah.
at work, and so many people, they look at work as, all right, let's get through it. And then when I clock out, then I can go and enjoy my life, and life begins, which is why I formed this topic of work enjoyment. And I just want to ask you for a second, because enjoyment, it's my word that I use, and it can mean a lot of different things. Enjoyment, people can see it as just one thing, and that's maybe having fun.
Sure.
And for me, that's part of it.
Yeah.
So when I say enjoyment to you, because mental health obviously comes into that, what is your definition of enjoyment? Like what to enjoy something, what would need to be there, need not to be there for you?
Yeah. Something I want to address first is, I think that when we think about enjoyment at work, and I'll answer your question, I think that also it's important to acknowledge that, that luxury of enjoyment at work is not something everyone gets access to.
Mm-hmm.
There are many, many, many people where work is a four-letter word, and work is something that is beyond necessity, and it is a means to an end. It's a form of survival. They don't have the luxury of enjoyment. And, for lots and lots and lots of reasons, socioeconomic, financial, personal. And so I think that I like that you want to expand that, because that can mean so many things. For some people, it truly is just the definition of the word enjoyment. For some people, it's, feeling contentment. For some people, it's feeling purpose. For some people, it's feeling relieved from the stability of having a consistent job. For some people, it's feeling inspired or creative. And I think that whatever that positive feeling is, and the feeling wheel from Dr. Gloria Wilcox can be really helpful to kind of name those feelings. But I think that whatever positive emotion that is, that people kind of hang on to for work, again, it could be contentment because you can put food on the table for your kids. It could be that you feel like you're contributing to a larger mission. But I think that, and actually I'll like nerd out for a second, if that's okay. There is a model called the PERMA model from Dr. Martin Seligman, PERMA. And that's actually a really good way to find that enjoyment, contentment, whatever, through that model. So positive emotions, forgot the E. R is relationships, M is meaning, A is, I already forgot, and I included it in the book. It's so embarrassing. But the PERMA model from Dr. Martin Seligman is a great way to identify and feel those emotions related to work.
I want to pause for a moment, just acknowledge some of the folks showing up today. Tom, thank you for your comments.
I know Tom.
Tom,
Yeah.
hi, Tom. And this is why these lives are so great. So when you show up, you've got the ability to comment, give us your thoughts. Thank you, Shabazz. Look at this.
Hi, everybody. And please connect with me on LinkedIn for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He followed up with this as well. Thank you so much for showing up, and keep your comments coming, folks, and questions. So we're here to answer those as well. So enjoyment, you're absolutely right. That's why it's important to even ask ourselves the question, to define it, and what does that mean? You can use a different word, but what you're doing is focusing on those, as you said, positive feelings. We want to feel good. What does that mean? What does that entail? And our mental health is foundational. I like also, Melissa, when you talk about mental health in the workplace, you're not just pointing the finger at those in charge, the decision makers, to create the necessary environment. But yes, that is a huge factor, and that's what we need to figure out collectively. You also focus on the individual and the responsibilities of the individual to understand their own mental health and do what they can do. So tell us a little bit more about that, because that's exactly my approach with my model for work enjoyment. It starts with us. What
Yeah.
can we do? What self-care, basically. Say
Mm.
more.
Well, I think that there's several pieces. So obviously, we don't exist in a vacuum. Prior to going into psychology, my undergraduate degree was in sociology and communications. And then my graduate degree was at the Adler School of Professional Psychology, now Adler University. I like the previous name. And I was Adlerian trained, and he was the first social psychologist. So he looked at people and the systems in which they exist.
Right.
So, yes, we make up these systems, absolutely, but we can't think that the system will always change for us. The system will change through lots of collective individual efforts, absolutely. But we also have to be accountable and responsible to be aware of our mental health and our needs and to manage it. And that's also, honestly, at its most basic form, emotional intelligence, self awareness, self management.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about the mental health piece, now granted, there are plenty of environments that can make us feel sick, that can make us feel stressed. And I'm not saying that's not true. Of course that's true. That's also happened to me. I am also saying that being aware of and managing mental health is an individual responsibility that, unless you are not compos mentis and cannot take care of yourself, it is your responsibility,
Mm.
period. And provided that you have access to resources, you can afford to use them, which is a whole nother commentary on social marginalization. Also, your responsibility to manage your mental health. So what I tend to recommend is that each person needs to do what is right for them, not based on the wellness industry telling them what is right for them. Now, there are the basic ones that are helpful. If you want to go to counseling, if you need medical support from a physician, support groups, if you want to schedule time for well-being activities. I talk a lot about the mental well-being non-negotiables, where each person needs to have at least one thing they do for their mental health, barring cases of death, dismemberment, hell, high water, or illness. And I am not kidding. And it doesn't have to be what the wellness industry tells you should enjoy. It should be what you actually enjoy. I am a former therapist. I don't like to meditate. Doesn't work for me.
Mm.
Yoga doesn't relax me. It's exercise. It's exercise. So I see it as a fitness thing. So my mental well-being non-negotiables are, salsa dancing, playing with my dogs every night, being out in nature once a week, like things that work for me. So, people really need to find at least that one thing and do it, because whenever we're busy, managing mental health is usually the first thing that falls off the list.
Okay, so thanks for that insight into some of the things we can do as individuals and take
Mhm.
responsibility for our self-care. That's a great foundation. Then that helps us fit into these environments that are putting the stresses on us. And maybe with our mindset, with the way we look after ourselves, that can influence others.
Mhm.
That can be inspiring, that can rub off on the people around us, that'll make us a better teammate, more
Mhm.
enjoyable to work with, and the ripple effect can compound
Yeah.
into just a healthier environment. So that's playing your part. Now, what can organizations do better, do more of? I know it's like,
I have some ideas.
yeah, yeah. Again, what I love about your book, your second book now, February 24th, folks, pre-order now, is, let me put that QR code up,
Thank
is that the first half of the book you talk about, and I'd love you to touch on this because you
Yeah.
need to put the context, right? You
Yeah.
talk about the issues and the problems that exist, what they are, why they are there.
Yeah.
And then that's like 5 chapters, 5 parts of the book. And then the second half, 6 through 10, is like, now here's what we can do about it. So
Exactly.
you're not just citing and giving examples of some of the issues out there, which you do so well through interviews as well, people you've interviewed, and you've got quotes from them that explain their experience in their leadership role. And what I love is how you've also given their background,
Mhm.
their ethnicity, the
Mhm.
type of leader, the industry they're in, just to give us a cross section of the different people out there and the struggles they're experiencing, because a lot of them are cultural. I'll stop talking about it. Tell us more about what organizations can do better.
Yeah. And for the folks who are on right now, just to build on what Mark was saying, the way the book is structured is, the first part is basically how did we get here? Why are we still here? What are the things that are continuing to influence and screw leadership mental health? And the second half, again, like Mark said, is, well, what do we do about it? So in that first half, it looks at, the history of how we got here, the dehumanization of leaders, how that dehumanization negatively impacts well-being, career, and performance, and then looking at how intersectional identity influences how people show up about leadership mental health. So, gender, culture, religion, industry type, all those sorts of things. And then also how the current world of work is impacting leadership mental health when the plate has kind of gone to a trough. So the second half of the book focuses on identifying your own leadership mental health archetype. So what those behaviors are that you bring to the workplace as a leader with your mental health, and how that may or may not be contributing to how it's impacting you. And then what to do about it as an individual, but also as an organization. So organizations are, generally speaking, much better than before. They've set up a lot of systems to positively influence employee mental health. Now, this can be employee resource groups. It can be, making sure people use health insurance, they use their employee assistance program, they have mental health awareness events, things like that. What we don't see is that same specialized attention to leaders. Now, I do a lot of, I would call, rage writing in the book about how there's a lot of, leadership mental health data, but no action. And that just really, I can't cope very well with that. They're like, here's all this mental health data in your organization. Leaders, you're included in that data, but you just have to action it for others. It's not really for you. So what I recommend, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We know how to set up these systems to support mental health in the workplace. So those same systems and permission to use said systems should be set up for leaders. Now, why can't there be an ERG for leadership mental health? Seriously, why not? Why can't there be leadership mental health peer support groups within an organization? Why can't mental health education and skill building be built into leadership development or onboarding? Why is it that leaders themselves are not more explicitly encouraged to use the employee assistance program for themselves and health insurance? If we want leaders to perform better, to be more effective, to role model, good mental health behaviors so that team members also feel that they can, wouldn't logic dictate that we encourage them to talk about mental health, to talk about their struggles, to ask for help, so they improve, so they can do those things?
Right.
Beats the fuck out of me. So that I feel painfully logical in the second half of the book, where I'm like, we've already done this, so why can't we replicate it for this specific group of people?
Right.
But also on top of that, I will not underestimate the challenge of shifting narrative. Now, there needs to be a lot of narrative shifting that goes along with that, because the people who need the change will be the ones who need to lead it. So there has to be a ton of organizational narrative shifting where we're showing that struggle coexists with effectiveness in leadership, because people are so fast to knock leaders down when they behave out of the standard deviations of acceptability. And this goes back to all of these studies we're not going to go into right now about how we create mental representations of leaders. We see a lot of leaders misbehaving, so we don't want to support them. All of these things make sense, and they work against what I'm trying to encourage. So it's really, really critical that as you're building up these systems, encouraging leaders to use them, there has to be narrative shifting where leaders are humanized, where it shows that they do struggle concurrently with being successful, that they are responsible to manage their mental health, because if they don't, they can really screw other people up in positions of power and influence. So there's, again, building the system and ongoing narrative shifting, because there will be people who will fight against it. because we build leaders up to be something that they're not even that thing, and we ask them to be that thing.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get off my soapbox for a minute, but that's the gist of part two.
Right. No, love it. That's so well and so much to cover, and you beautifully just condensed that. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking as well. It makes sense. I know I've spoken to people who are brilliant in the workplace, what they have to offer, and I know, and I've encouraged them to be in more leadership roles. You would be such a great leader.
Yeah.
And them knowing the stresses, knowing the environment doesn't set them up for success. They're like, oh no, I wouldn't want
Well,
to be that. Yeah.
do you remember that thing about the conscious unbossing? It was about how Gen Z folks are like, I'm good. I don't want the leadership gig. My mental health is too important. And I was
Right.
like, I don't blame them.
I
Like,
know.
I understand.
I mean, how astute that they look around and they know that that's not, they're not supported if they do. And well done for prioritizing their own mental health.
I understand. I do.
But
Um,
they're missing out on potentially some brilliant leaders that could steer us in the right direction.
yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. I mean, we need to have leaders from that generation, obviously, but it's in certain ways, I don't blame them. They see what's happening to
Mm.
their the generations ahead of them, and they're like, I'm good. I don't want that.
Listen, this is what I was so excited when I saw you were writing about this specifically. It made me think about, again, in this, the work that I do, and I've worked with some companies, and one in particular, a huge retailer, sent me to them. There were 35-ish regional managers all around the country had come together. 34 of them were what they considered burnt out, which is why it was an emergency. It wasn't a nice to have. It was like, okay, we need something here. So I was honored to be asked to come in and talk a little bit about, it wasn't even avoiding burnout for them at that stage. It was
managing and getting out of it.
Managing and reversing. I mean, you don't want to get to that point where it's you end up in hospital, but they were bordering on that. And I just remember my little presentation, I thought of the analogy, which makes me think of it again when I'm speaking to you about this, was I showed a little clip of the original Superman. Clark Kent, played by, what was our original Superman? Christopher
Reeves.
Christopher Reeves.
Yeah.
And Lois Lane was played by Margot Kidder. So there was a scene where she falls off a building. I think she was trying to prove that, Superman was real or whatever. And then she's just plunging to her death. And here comes Superman, because he's in love with her, catches her. And then she's just looking around and just looks at him, stares in his eyes, and he says, "Don't worry, I got you." And then well, hang on. She looks down and she goes, "You've got me. Who's got you?" And
good.
So I just thought, and I even put a little kind of title on Superman of manager.
Yeah.
And I had Lois Lane
as good. That's clever.
Employee. And that's right, and they felt like, yeah, you are expected to be Superman. And you're built up, as you said, to be like Superman with superpowers. The only difference is that Superman's not quite human. Most leaders, if not all, are.
I remember, and I that I wrote like a lot of information in the book about those interviews with, I think I interviewed like 20 to 25 leaders, and all the quotes are unedited, sprinkled throughout the book, even the really, really tough ones. And there were two stories that really stuck with me. There was this one leader I spoke to and it was a very, very, very large, well-known technology company, and that's where we'll leave that, where they said, I have told people that I struggle, and I don't have access to human ways to tell them that. And I was like, that was their exact words. And then this other person who's a leader, they were, trying to explain to some people in a meeting why they were struggling. just so they knew, and so they didn't make any assumptions about their behavior changes. And a more junior staff member said that that leader's disclosure was inappropriate and triggered them. And that's why they couldn't work the next day.
Wow.
I was like, are we really doing this? Like, are we really weaponizing, leaders' mental health that much? Apparently we are. So I am gonna control myself. But I've had endless leadership coaching sessions with people over the years where they cry to me in these sessions. They hyperventilate. They strip down, the veil of leadership, the title, all of it. And they're just a person, for God's sakes. Like, they just happen to be a leader. They weren't always. And I'm like, am I the only person who's seeing this? I understand that I'm like disrupting the way we do things, but how do you expect them to perform and keep up this charade? Like, I know I'm not crazy. And so okay, I'm gonna get myself together. No.
No, I love when you get fired up and you say, I can't cope. Your way of coping is going and writing a book, which is...
Yes, that's how I coped. I rage wrote 75,000 words.
It's almost inhuman in itself, and we are better for it.
Thanks.
Speaking of which, Melissa, so look, already 40 minutes. This is what happens with you.
I know.
Take it out
and I said fuck 5 times, including that.
That's not enough, by the way, and I'm not taking them out. So you even talk, I was going to say, so cancel me. You even talk about cancel culture in the book.
Yes, cancel culture versus call out culture. Yeah, and why they tend to get confused, where people, and I believe in call out culture. I definitely do. People who do bad things need to be held accountable, period. Yeah. But that's not the same thing as cancel culture. And people will often say they're doing call out culture, but they're actually engaging in cancel culture, which is even more of a reason why even the good leaders are terrified.
Yeah.
Say one wrong thing, do one wrong thing, end up on the internet, and career is screwed for life, because it happens every day and it happens all the time.
Once again, therefore, why would people want to be a leader? You've got all these societal pressures being unrealistically applied on people in leadership positions and expectations that is, you so beautifully demonstrated, is causing diminished mental health in our leaders out there, and we need to do something about it.
And I think that one of the best things that people can start doing today is, and again, for anybody who's on right now who reads the book, you have to take your individual circumstance into account, your company, your team, the culture, because some of what I'm recommending is applicable in your situation, and in other cases, it's not going to be safe to. There are plenty of companies, teams that are telling you who they are and who they will not be. And so you have to listen to them. So I would think about, if you're going to start talking about your mental health as a leader, what do you want to share? What are you trying to accomplish? Who are you going to share to? What are you planning to do to manage your mental health? And if you receive resistance, what are you going to say? And so I think that, I'm not twisted about the fact that there are people who will fight against what I'm trying to do. And that's okay. They can be wrong. And I feel that one of the best things that leaders can start saying is, talking about and managing my mental health is the sign of a good leader. Can you help me understand why you disagree?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the questions that need to be asked.
Speaking of which, that you pose so many questions as a way to support in the book. You suggest questions for leaders to ask themselves.
There's questions, there's approaches, there's a lot of structure in that second part. Mm-hmm. There's some scripts, there are, lots of things to consider. But again, I reiterate, probably an annoying amount of times, for people to really personalize the guidance based on what their situation is.
Yeah.
And that is the way.
That is the way. To wrap up, I might be putting you on the spot a little bit, Melissa, but I know you can handle it because
I think so.
I always like to give our folks, our audience, 3 takeaways. You've
Mhm.
already mentioned a couple. You said, here's what you can start doing today. But if you could sum everything up into maybe 3, if they were only going to do 3 things right now. Now you can direct this to the individual. You can direct it to the leader, direct it to the decision makers of companies to help your leaders. I'll leave that up to you. What are 3 takeaways that people can absorb and start acting upon to improve their mental health in the workplace?
I think when it comes to narrative shifting, that organizations have an opportunity to really start put messaging out that we want to support the mental health of our leaders so they can lead our business. Yeah. Really seems pretty logical to me. So that's one thing. Organizations start putting out messaging, whether it's around Mental Health Awareness Month, World Mental Health Day, or any other sort of spotlights, making sure to have space in that conversation for, and here's why we support the mental health of our leaders so they can do all the shit we ask them to do. Another one is really identifying what your behaviors are around mental health as a leader and how you might unintentionally be telling people they don't need to support you, depending on how you behave. So there's 7 archetypes for you to pick from in chapter 7. And there's going to have to be a pretty honest, like, come to Jesus conversation with yourself about, well, some people don't support you. Is there anything you're doing to contributing to that perception as to why, in addition to being the leader? And the third thing is, if you don't have a mental well-being non-negotiable, you better fucking get one immediately, because especially if you're a leader, your mental health cannot wait.
Boom. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I knew you'd be fine with that question.
Yeah, you put me on the spot anytime.
Yeah. Well, Melissa, let's wrap it up there. You have such a busy schedule. You got to go promote that book, prepare for the launch. You've got a launch party in Denver as well.
March 6th.
6th.
March 6th from 6 to 8 p.m. At Tattered Cover. It's a local bookstore chain. If anybody's welcome to come, if you want to come, it's at Tattered Cover off of Colfax in Denver. There is a registration page, so if you feel like coming to the mountains, you're welcome to come to the book launch party. Message me on LinkedIn, and I'll send you the details.
Get your copy signed by the author itself.
Come meet my parents; they'll be there too.
Oh, there you go. Why didn't you lead with that, Melissa? People are picking their butts right now.
Mama and Papa Doman will be there, and my husband, my accountant, everybody's going to be there. So,
but not your new dog, not your new pup.
No, Nala and Lola won't be there. They'll be at home, and Nala will be destroying our shoes, which she has already destroyed 5 pairs in 2 weeks. So we're coping with that puppy life.
There you go, folks. Go foster a dog.
Yes. Adopt, don't shop.
Adopt, don't shop. Love it. I'm going to put all these quotes up now. Melissa, as always, thank you so much. I feel very privileged to have gotten this amount of your time, given everything you're doing out there in the world. Keep up the great work. I am so grateful to call you a colleague and a friend and supporting you all the way. So thanks so much again. And thanks for everyone for showing up today and listening in. And no doubt you took some incredible takeaways from this wonderful woman right here. Thank you again, Melissa.
Thank you so much for having me. And anybody, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. The book is available for pre-order across all major retailers. And if there's any services I can do for your business, just connect on melissadoman.com. And thanks again for having me, Mark. Always fun.
I'm sure there is much you can do for these businesses. So yes, hire this woman. There's the book again one more time before we send her off to save the world. Thanks, Melissa.
Thanks. Cheers. Bye.
Isn't she incredible, folks? So glad to have her back, and I will if she agrees to come back, I'll keep having her again and again and again. Get that book. I'm going to put it up one more time. and I'm going to pre-order mine. And she did assure me that she's looking into an audiobook version, which would really help me. All right, folks, another one coming your way, LinkedIn Live this Thursday. And make sure you watch the whole video of this. Send it out to your folks. Send it to your respective leaders, decision makers in your business, and say, watch this, boss. We need this. But for now, have a great day.